Hey everyone, welcome back. I've got an update for you. We've been waiting for about 3 weeks for Google to say something. To be fair, there was a holiday in there, so I can understand them taking some time off, but it felt like forever. It felt like we hadn't heard from Grace and her crew in a very, very long time. So when this posted today, a lot of people got excited, and for good reason. There's a lot of good stuff in here to talk about. Now, I'm not going to talk about everything that they've already done, and that's how they kind of start out this article here. So the first half of the article is all about stuff that has already happened. So everything after that halfway point is new information and very, very interesting information. We're about to get to that information. Before we do, take a moment, hit that thumbs up button, click subscribe, and click the bell so you get notified every time that we do something, either go live or post a new video. It really lets YouTube know that, hey, these guys are doing a good job. Let's make sure that you recommend them to as many people as possible. With that being said, let's jump right in. It says here, we have a lot more planned and will continue to work hard toward delighting gamers with our vision for Stadia. Looking at our upcoming lineup, we are tracking more than 120 games coming to Stadia in 2020. You know, if you do some fast math, that's about 10 games per month. And that may not sound like a lot, but I don't know. I think that's plenty. I think that's a lot of games. I don't play more than 120 games in a year. You might, but I don't. So I'm fine with that number. That being said, I also want to make sure that everybody understands that in my guess is that these are the games that they know are coming in 2020. There's probably other games that are coming in 2020 that they're not sure are coming in 2020, and we'll hear more about those probably the second half of the year. Now, they go on to say something very important. They are targeting more than 10 games in the first half of the year alone that will only be available on Stadia when they launch. We're working with our partners to share more info on those games soon. So, all right. You have all heard me talk about exclusivity and Stadia before, but for those of you who haven't, I'm going to do a quick sum up. I posted a video before, which I'm sure you can find here on the channel, where I said that Google does not need to have exclusives in order for Stadia to succeed. And I stand by that. I still don't think that exclusives are 100% necessary for Google to succeed. Now, I have had plenty of people tell me that I'm wrong, and they point to how Stadia is doing right now as evidence that the fact that there's so few exclusives, right now Guilt is one exclusive, that's the reason why Stadia is not doing well. And I say to those people, that's not the reason why Stadia is not doing well. The reason that Stadia is doing the way that it is because right now there's very few people out there who are willing to throw $140, or is it 130? I think it's 130. $130 at something that is so new and experimental. Next year, I'm still in 2019 in my brain. Later on this year, when Stadia Base comes out, that's when it's free and anybody can try it in a web browser. When that happens, the number of people who are going to try Stadia is going to go up exponentially because there's no hardware for them to buy. And this is why I say that exclusives aren't necessary. Key word being necessary. It doesn't mean that I don't think that it would be good for the platform for it to have exclusives. That doesn't mean that I think that that doesn't mean that I don't want exclusives on Stadia. It just means that I think that Stadia Base would be just fine on its own. It also doesn't mean that I don't think exclusives are coming because, you know, Jade Raymond is heading up Stadia Games and Entertainment. I know that exclusives are coming. That's without a doubt. That's 100% guaranteed we're going to see exclusives on Stadia. I was never saying that we would not see exclusives on Stadia or that exclusives on Stadia would hurt Stadia. I was just saying that Stadia would be okay with or without exclusives, obviously better with. Now, that being said, this right here, I don't like this. This bothers me. It says here we are targeting more than 10 games in the first half of the year alone that will only be available on Stadia when they launch. Now, when I read that, What occurs to me is when they launch. That is a very important qualifier. So that tells me, if I'm reading this right, and there's more than one way that you could read it, but if I'm reading this right, that means it's probably a timed exclusive, or these games are probably timed exclusives. And whenever you are talking about a timed exclusive, that means that this game could probably or will probably run on other platforms. So sure, it'll end up on the PS4, it'll end up on the Xbox One, it'll end up on the PC or the PS5 or Xbox Project or Series X. Like, it'll be on other platforms. Maybe it'll be on Switch. Who knows? These games are timed exclusives, if I'm reading this right. And the reason that I don't like timed exclusives is because that's all about the money. That's about the platform holder walked up to a publisher and they said, here's a big bag of money. I'm going to pay you not to publish your game on any other platform for a certain amount of time. And yes, is that helpful for the platform holder? Absolutely. Is that good for the gaming industry as a whole? Absolutely not. I don't like it when Epic Games does it, and I say that. I don't like it when PlayStation does it, and I say that. And so therefore, I have to say that I don't like it when Google does it. Do I know for a fact that that's what happened here? Absolutely not. I have no idea, but that's just what my gut tells me. My gut tells me that these are timed exclusives, and the reason we have a timed exclusive on Stadia is because of a big bag of money changing hands. And that always bothers me because, in my opinion, the gaming industry should be, what's the word I'm looking for? It should just be proprietary free, in my opinion. Sure, there are games that will only work on certain platforms, like the Nintendo Switch, where it has certain things that work because maybe a touchscreen or something like that. I understand that. There are things that only work on certain platforms because of hardware restrictions. Maybe it'll only work. Maybe a game will only work on an Xbox Series X, and it won't come to Nintendo because they can't bring the game down to run on a Nintendo Switch. I understand that. That's totally fine. I also think it's going to be fantastic when we have Stadia exclusive games that are only exclusive because they depend on features that work on Stadia that no other platform can provide. That is exciting to me. What's not exciting to me is when a game can run on a PlayStation, an Xbox, Stadia, or a Nintendo Switch, and one of those platform holders says, here's some money, don't publish it elsewhere, keep it from the other people who might not like this platform. That is just not cool, and I've never been a fan of that. One last time, I don't know that that's what happened here, but that's what it feels like. Anyway, let's move on and talk about the other things. They also said gamers can expect more features come to Stadia in Q1 and beyond. A key benefit of our platform is that we can add these features without any updates or downloads, and we're starting to roll out the following over the next 3 months. Number 1, support for 4K gaming on the web. Holy cow. This is going to make a lot of people happy. Now, of course, they talk about 4K, and I tell them stop talking about 4K. But it's fine that they're mentioning that they're going to be able to stream 4K games on the web. Why aren't they doing this now? My guess is because they are testing the VP9 codec. If you don't know what that is, it is a codec is the coding and decoding of data, basically taking information, compressing it down really small, sending it to you, and then decompressing it. That's a codec in a nutshell. And the VP9 codec is the one that Google is using. And the Chromecast, from what I understand, is completely VP9. It only uses VP9. When you're playing on a Chrome browser, that is, from what I understand, a 1080p signal using H.264 as the compressor. All right. So, what is the difference between the two? Well, VP9 doesn't look as nice, but it's much more responsive and it is much lighter bandwidth. So it doesn't have nearly as much data footprint to stream VP9 than it does to stream H.264. H.264 looks better, but uses up a lot more bandwidth. and doesn't feel quite as good when you are gaming. That's, from what I understand, why games don't feel as good in the browser as they do on Chromecast. And you can say what you want, but that's how I feel. It just doesn't feel as good on Chromecast or on in a browser than it does on Chromecast. So, support for 4K gaming on the web. I think that this is probably related to them bringing VP9 to the web browser. Right now, you can force VP9 in the web browser. I wouldn't bother with it. It doesn't give you 4K, but you can force it. Just wait and see what happens. Anyway, what else are they adding? They're adding further assistant functionality when playing on the web. So maybe your little assistant button will do something when playing on the web. Cool, I guess. Support for additional Android phones. That's very important that they get away from just Pixel phones. And finally, wireless gameplay on the web through the Stadia controller. This is a big one. I don't like using a wire. And I think that the idea of getting rid of that wire will, again, because you're using Wi-Fi on the controller, that's going to improve your experience when playing games on the web. Something else that is very important. Not only that, here's another reason why this is very important. You know that $130 buy-in? That's because it has a Chromecast in there. If you just buy a controller from Google and you use the Wi-Fi with your Chrome browser, that's going to be a better experience than using the wired connection, because the wired connection adds a little bit of latency to your overall experience. So anyway, that is the big info for today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Again, if you did, make sure that you click that thumbs up button. Make sure that you subscribe, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.